Welcome to an end-to-end demo of Ocedo for AWS. We're going to do this live, so bear with us if anything goes wrong. The first thing we're going to do is go to the Ocedo website. We're going to pick on the AWS connectivity page. What we are going to do is we're going to connect an AWS account that has never used Ocedo before and actually do a demo of everything from end to end. So let me click on Launch Now. That will take us to the AWS Marketplace for Ocedo. Now we've never used Ocedo before, so we need to subscribe to it, which also brings us into the onboarding process and gets us a CC, as well as allows the AWS automation to take place inside the Ocedo console. So I'm just using my personal AWS account. I'm going to click on Continue, never used the product before, and I'm going to accept the terms. Now it just takes a second for Amazon to allow you to actually launch something, and you can either wait or you can click refresh. Sometimes this takes 2 minutes and sometimes it takes 10. When it's ready, you'll see there's a little Launch with EC2 console button here. So let me pick the Ireland region here and I'll just launch one. And that's actually going to take me into my AWS console for Ireland. And I'm actually going to launch an EC2 instance here. So let's do this and go review and launch. We'll configure the instance details. This is the VPC subnets that we have here. We should assign a public IP to it if we haven't already done that before. And we're going to then check the storage. Storage is fine. Basically, we could go right into the Ocedo console, but we do need a CC. So this will actually allow us to get one. So let me just call this Ocedo onboarding. Configure the security group. And let's just make a new security group here that allows for all traffic just for today. When we're done with that, we'll launch this instance. We don't need a key pair for this because we don't need to log into it. And now this instance is going to launch in this particular VPC in Ireland. Now let me just go to my EC2 list for Ireland here. We just need to wait a few minutes for this instance to fully come up, and at that point we'll be able to get ourselves an Ocedo CC by actually logging into this instance, which is going to provision a CC for us and give us the information we need to log into it. So this just takes just a minute, so just bear with us and we'll come right back when this is finished and fully booted. Now it's been a couple of minutes for this instance to boot up. It does still say it's initializing, but we're going to just try the IP. Now we could, if we're an existing customer, just log into our CC and complete the AWS onboarding process. But because we're a new customer, we don't yet have a CC. So one's been provisioned for us. So let's go ahead and click this link to log into our new cloud console. You can see that the username's already been filled in, but we are going to need the password, which is the instance ID. We actually tell you that right here in the documentation on the website. So let's go ahead and find the instance ID here from EC2, and we'll just paste that in. And that will log us into our brand new CC. Now we have the chance here to customize some of the details so the organization name isn't anonymous or something like that. So let's go ahead and we'll enter some stuff in here, such as my username is going to be A,Zeto, password, my name, email address, phone number, and we'll also enter a little bit of stuff here like the short name. We'll call this Ocedo. I'm in Vancouver, and I'll just say I'm in Canada. And a time zone. Now, if you don't enter the information now, it's not the end of the world. You have a chance to enter this at any time you like. Now, we can also see here that Ocedo has placed a default site physically in the world for us, and that's just a headquarters at a generic New York location. Now, Ocedo is really good at tying in your physical locations using our appliances to your actual AWS infrastructure as well. But we're not going to do that today, and for right now, we don't actually need a physical site. So I'm just going to go here to Network Design. I'm going to click on the headquarters site, and I'm going to delete that. So now we have no site. So we come to our map, it's going to be a big blank lonely thing here that defaults somewhere to the middle of the ocean. So no sites, nothing ready to go. But we do want to now set up our AWS integration. So we're going to do that now. We're going to click on Network Design and we're going to go down to AWS and turn this on. Now as you can see, we have to do some security things to allow Ocedo to manage my AWS account. So let me show you how we do that. We're going to follow this direction. So we're going to go to the IAM section of my AWS console. So let's go back here and we'll go into IAM. And now we're going to keep following the instructions here where in IAM it says we have to create a role, which is a name of our choice, and we're going to create a cross-account role for this account ID and this external security key. And all that basically does is allow Ocedo to take control of a small portion of my AWS resources in order to automate the things I want it to automate for me. So let's make a role. We're going to create a new role. Let's just call this Ocedo. And then we're going to click Next. Then we're going to go to cross-account access, and we're going to allow an IAM user from a third party. Again, this is all in the documentation back there in the Ocedo Cloud Console. And then we're going to paste in the account ID, and we're going to go back to the Ocedo Cloud Console, and we're going to grab this secure external ID, which is randomly generated for me each time. And then I'm going to hit Next Step. And now I'm going to grant access to EC2, and I'm also going to grant access to CloudWatch so that Ocedo can do some cool monitoring for me as well and some of the features that we plan to release. So let's do CloudWatch full access here, and then we'll just click Next Step. So now we have a policy. Now before I click Create Role, which I do need to do, I'm just going to cut and paste this so I don't have to go back and edit it afterwards just to get the role ARN. So the role should be up and running. If you click on it, you'll actually see the permission it gives, which is EC2 full access and CloudWatch. And all we have to do now is go back here and paste this in. And if we've done everything correctly, there's really nothing else I have to do. Now that I've successfully authenticated my AWS Access tab, I get a list here that shows me all of my VPCs around the world in all regions and all subnets. So today we have some VPCs we won't be using, but we also have some down below here which I actually want to use for the demo, which is connecting VPCs 1, 2, and 3 together. Now we can see that these two VPCs are in the same US West Oregon region, and will also connect to our South America region as well with my VPC3 subnet, sorry. So we just click Connect, and then we'll click Connect on these subnets. And what this does is it actually doesn't deploy any AWS infrastructure at all. This just sets up the Ocedo side of things. It creates the sites, the zones, the uplinks, and basically gets all of the Ocedo side infrastructure ready for when we deploy our instances and all of the VPN tunnels start coming online. So as you can see, I've picked a few subnets, everything's been ready here, and in just a few seconds we're able to go here to deploy gateways, and we can now deploy. Now if we want to deploy one at a time to pick different instance sizes, for example, we can. And again, pricing can be found at the marketplace page for how much each instance costs. But we're going to go deploy all VPC sites, and we're going to pick our really nice performing medium instance. We can get 120 megabits of VPN performance out of a simple T2 medium. So we're going to click Submit on that. And now all we have to do is sit back while the Ocedo automation does everything that is needed in order to actually create full VPN tunnels and create a full mesh with all of the routing between our VPCs. Now what happens here is we deploy a gateway into each individual VPC. We have our own private subnet and a public subnet that we associate with the dual interfaces on the Ocedo gateway. And then when everything is up, it updates the firmware, reboots everything, and at the very last step, when the gateway's up and in good health, we then change the route tables for your VPC subnets to tell them how to reach all of the other subnets involved in this full mesh architecture. So while this is being deployed, if we actually come down here to appliances, we can see that we have some new appliances here set. We'll look at these AWS ones as part of the demo today, and we can see that these particular appliances are pending, which means we're just waiting for those instances to fire up, at which point they'll make themselves known to my CC here. They'll be auto-registered, they'll update their firmware, they'll reboot one more time, and at that point they'll construct the VPN tunnels. Now this entire process takes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes at most, really no matter how many VPCs you've decided to plumb together. And what's really cool is if once it's all running, you've decided that this isn't for you or you selected the wrong VPCs, at any time you can go back up to the AWS section here and you can simply click on Undeploy, which will terminate the instances and remove all trace that we will ever there. You'll never even know we were there. We remove all traces of our existence, and your subnets are just going to be a lot lonelier. So let's watch here and see how these appliances come online. Just takes a few seconds for them to fully boot up, and once they have their internet connectivity, the registration process is indeed fully automated. So we'll let these come up, we'll let them update to the latest version, and we'll be right back when they're all finished. Just takes a few minutes. Now we've waited about 60 seconds and all of the appliances have finished their firmware upgrade and they're just rebooting. Now in this case, we're actually limited by how fast the different appliance types in AWS can reboot. So when they actually come online, they re-register themselves after the firmware upgrade. The config will ship out to them. They'll just say offline for a second, and then at that point they'll come back online, and you can see here comes the one in VPC2. VPC1 shouldn't be much far behind it here, and then we'll probably see VPC3 just because of the order they were deployed from the actual cloud console in the AWS section there. So when these are all up and running, they're actually going to make themselves known back here, and we're going to know that the auto VPN gets created for them automatically. Or actually, all I've done is selected the VPC and the subnet I want to hook together, picked an instance size, and hit deploy. I haven't had to do any routing. I haven't had to do any sort of permissions. I haven't actually had to do any VPN tunnel parameters whatsoever. It just takes a second for all the appliances to boot up and come online. And when that happens, we're actually going to have a fully completed auto VPN circuit here as soon as we see in the logs that the VPN tunnel is online, and it can negotiate all of that. Now, while it's doing that, we're going to take a quick look at the EC2 console just to see our shiny new Ocedo gateways and see exactly what we've done here in AWS. So let me go back into VPC, and let's pick our Sao Paulo region here, and we'll go to EC2 actually. And we'll see here that we do have an Ocedo gateway, which has been deployed by our cloud console, which I didn't launch this myself. And we're actually going to have a little small look at the plumbing that's actually done. Now we have an old one here from a previous test that's just in the terminated state, but we can see here's our new one. It's actually running. It has an IP address. And if we go back to VPC, we can actually see that for the particular subnet involved, pick on subnets here, the uplink and downlink are reserved for the Ocedo gateway itself, but this is my existing VPC subnet. And if I look at the route table, I can see that the other networks at the other sites have been plumbed together, and they've been included in the routing, and they're directing their routes to the Ocedo gateway that's running in EC2 here. So everything we've done is fully automated. All of your AWS infrastructure changes, once you have your own VPCs created, have been done by Ocedo. So all you really need to have is some AWS infrastructure, and we'll take care of creating a full mesh between all of it. If we come back here to the Ocedo Cloud Console, we can actually see that it looks like there's some notifications here a few seconds ago that the auto VPN tunnels are online. So if we come to our dashboard, we should see some nice green lines here. If we had more sites, we'd see more green lines. But we see we do have a VPN tunnel. And because two of the VPCs are actually in the same region, we're actually going to see them represented as a single line. So that's pretty much how easy it is to find us on our website, get directed to the marketplace, launch an instance, and agree to the terms. And so that way we're able to launch more instances for you from our automation. And at that point, you're then able to log into the console that's been created for you, connect you to IAM via IAM to the Ocedo Cloud Console to give it the rights that it needs. And then at that point, you can go to your AWS section and deploy everything. So it really doesn't take that much to do once you connect yourself, import your VPCs, and then deploy your gateways. Really small, simple process, and much, much faster than doing it by hand. Thanks very much, and thanks for watching.